When my grandpa was a boy, he went down to the general store, saw a picture book of a whale, shoot his spout, splashing his tail. Then he got him a sailor's dream, cruise around on the salty sea, up in the rigging in the afternoon, swabbing the deck sharp and harpoons. Hooray, and up she rises, hooray, and up she rises, hooray, and up she rises early in the morning. There's lots of whales in the deep blue sea, kill 'em for the industry. Drag 'em alongside, cut 'em in two, melt 'em down and some to you. There hardly is a whaler alive who can keep the tear from his eyes. He remembers the good old days when there were no whales to sail. Now we can thank the company for scouring the deep blue sea, looking for ivory and perfume, oil to like Joe Laboon. Hooray, and up she rises, hooray, and up she rises, hooray, and up she rises early in the morning. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? He'll haul him until he's sober, he'll haul him until he's sober, he'll haul him until he's sober early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Throw him in a boat with the captain's daughter, throw him in a boat with the captain's daughter, throw him in a boat with the captain's daughter early in the morning. Shave his belly with a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises, way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Whalers. Well, whalers had a bad summer up here, the summer of 1865. The last week of June 1865, there were 30 Yankee whaling ships working in the Bering Sea. They were right off the western coast of Alaska. They were just off the ice pack, and they were all chasing after whales. When all of a sudden, out of the fog and the snow, there appeared the Confederate commerce raider CSS Shenandoah. This Confederate States of America warship, a sister to the Alabama, had come halfway around the whole world, sinking United States merchant shipping. And she suddenly appeared smack dab in the middle of the Yankee whaling fleet. Firing her Whitworth gun across their bows, the Confederate warship forced the Yankee vessels to heave to, furl their sails, and surrender. And over the next 2 days, 28 Yankee whaling ships were all burned and sunk. The American Civil War had ended 11 weeks before. News of that event had not yet reached all the way north to the distant Arctic. And so the very last shot fired in the American Civil War was fired up here in Alaska. Other than the whalers, very few Americans knew anything about Alaska. In fact, a lot of the misunderstanding there is about us today. You can trace it back to the front pages of America's newspapers. Right after the war, 1867. Seward's Icebox. Seward's Folly. 7.2 million for nothing but icebergs and Eskimos? Ha! Who wants to buy Alaska? The purchase of Alaska by American Secretary of State William Seward from the Russian Tsar for $7.2 million. Comes out about 2 cents an acre. That was considered by the American press, in their tremendous wisdom of those days, to be a terrible mistake. And Alaska became the laughing stock of America's brand new territorial possessions. Primarily because a handful of journalists decided to label us Icebergia. Alaska got put up high on a shelf and forgotten about, like a giant treasure chest with the lid closed, for decade after decade after decade, until an amazing day, July 17, 1897. The SS Portland was a little steamship outbound from St. Michael's, Alaska. She puffed across Puget Sound and tied up to the Seattle waterfront, just as the very first of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer's extras of the day started to hit the streets. Gold, 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 stacks of yellow metal, a ton of gold on a steamer, Portland, and 68 rich men. Gold, we sprang from our benches. Gold, we leapt from our stools. Gold, we wheeled in the furrow, fired to the faith of fools. Robert W. Service. Who out there knows the name Robert Service? Anybody know that name at all? Mr. Service was a great Canadian poet. He wrote things like, a bunch of the boys were whooping it up in the Malamute Saloon about the shooting of Dan McGrew. And he wrote, there's strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. He wrote that one about the cremation of Sam McGee. Robert Service wrote about the Klondike Gold Rush. 1 million Americans across the depression-ridden United States read hometown newspaper headlines that said, gold in the Klondike, and planned to leave home. And 100,000 did, taking railroad trains across the continent to San Francisco, Tacoma, Seattle, booking steamers out of Vancouver and Victoria, and jammed to the rails of everything that floated, eyes wide with anticipation. They imagined, all I'm going to have to do is reach down and pick up gold nuggets the size of hen's eggs. I'm going to be rich. Ha! All I got to do is get up there. And as they headed north, 100,000 of them, they were all singing their own version of the Ballad of the Yukon.
Hello.
Do I have a little bit more vocal monitor, but more